by praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for giving us this great opportunity to fulfill this obligation of Jumu'ah. It's very interesting, every time this has happened, probably a couple of times in the past several years, where Eid and Jumu'ah fall on the same day. And the discussion that we always get into is, oh, if Eid and Jumu'ah is on the same day, do I have to go to Jumu'ah? And maybe some of us have heard this and some of us haven't, but it's something that circulates, and you've probably seen it in your circles as well. But the amazing thing is, although that is a legitimate question, and there is differences, and we're not going to get into that here, but the question we should be asking ourselves is, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us the opportunity to be in a gathering of His remembrance, not once on a day, but twice. And we are, on the other hand, looking for a way to get out of it. And just for a second, not thinking about the legal and the technicalities, just the heart aspect of it. If I invite you to my house once, that means I like you, we're on good terms. What if I invite you to my house twice? What if I invite you to my house twice on the same day? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, everyone here most likely, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has invited you to His house twice in the same day, if not more, if you're going to come for Isha, Maghrib, and then even more. But at least on the same day, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Himself has invited you to His house twice. And He's hosting you, subhanahu wa ta'ala, in these most blessed days of the year. And for that we say Alhamdulillah, because there are so many people that want to be here but can't. And on top of that, there are people that don't even want to be here. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you that heart, that aligns with what He wants. And on top of that, He gave you and me the ability to come here. And for that we say Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. And of course, as always, we start by sending our salawat, our blessings on the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, who without his example, without his guidance, without the way he showed us to do things, me and you would be completely lost. Even if we don't always do it to the best of our ability, we at least know what it is. We know what it is that we're supposed to be doing. And we also know that if we're able to emulate that, we would be able to solve all our issues. And we have that from him sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to always send His abundant blessings on him sallallahu alayhi wasallam. As we celebrate this day, Eid al-Adha, we think of our Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam. Ibrahim alayhi salam, he meets with the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam during the night of Isra and Mi'raj. And as we all know the story very well, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he gets taken from Mecca to Masjid al-Aqsa. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala free Palestine. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala free Masjid al-Aqsa from the hands of the oppressors. He goes to Masjid al-Aqsa sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and he's taken up into the seven heavens. And at each station he's meeting somebody else. At each station he's meeting another prophet alayhimus salam. And he eventually goes through this, and he meets Ibrahim alayhi salam, his great-great-grandfather from many generations back. And Ibrahim alayhi salam tells him, he's speaking to him, his descendant, and he tells him, give my salam to your ummah. So that's me and you. He's telling him, give my salam to your ummah. And then he tells him that I have seen Jannah, I know about Jannah, Ibrahim alayhi salam is saying, and its plains are vast. The meadows, the gardens in Jannah, they're vast. And the plants are just waiting to grow. The ground is fertile. It's just waiting for somebody to take advantage of it. And he says that this land, it's fertilizer. What's going to make these gardens spring up? What's going to make this entire land be lush and beautiful, the gardens of Jannah? Ibrahim alayhi salam tells him that this land will be grown by Subhanallah, Alhamdulillah, La ilaha illallah, Allahu Akbar. That when your people, your ummah, the ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, when we just sit there and mindfully we think about what we're saying, and we say Alhamdulillah, we say Subhanallah, we say La ilaha illallah, there is absolutely nothing, nobody worthy of our devotion except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When we say that with conviction, this garden that Ibrahim alayhi salam is talking about spikes up a new tree, a new flower. And Ibrahim alayhi salam is telling his grandson that tell your ummah that this is what's waiting. Tell them to fill this place up. that no matter how the dunya may look for them, you might not have nothing here. Even though most of us here, alhamdulillah, than 99% of the world, we're much better. But even if you feel like you have nothing here, or our brothers and sisters that are suffering so much at the hands of the oppressors, even if that is our case here, we have a place at the end of all this for eternity, where the gardens spring up just by the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Where me and you can sit here and just on our fingers count subhanallah, alhamdulillah, la ilaha illallah, and by the time you get up and leave, another garden is waiting for you. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us of these people. And especially in these days, when we come up and say after the salah, Allahu Akbar, la ilaha illallah, keep this in mind. That especially in these days, when I'm doing this, when I'm engaging in this dhikr, what am I really doing? When I say this with conviction, what am I really doing? I'm sending it for over there. That one day I'm going to go there and I'm going to see that that's my la ilaha illallah. That's my subhanallah. That tree right there is my subhanallah. One day that's coming. Have full conviction in your heart that that is what's coming. And with this conviction in your heart, we remember the legacy of Ibrahim alayhi salam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about Ibrahim alayhi salam in numerous places in the Quran. And He uses so many different adjectives, so many different phrases to describe him. But in one place He says, alayhi salam, he was إِذْ جَاءَ رَبَّهُ بِقَلْبٍ سَلِيمٍ. When he came to his Rabb, when Ibrahim alayhi salam came to his Rabb, every time he had a qalbin salim, a heart that was completely at peace. He had a heart that was completely still. Meaning anything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asked of Ibrahim alayhi salam, he was able to fulfill without any hesitation. It's one thing to do something. If I tell you to do something and you do it, but you're thinking, I don't really want to do this, I don't think this even makes sense. That's one thing. But another level is you have complete conviction that no, He's telling me to do this, this is good for me. It's one thing to do certain things, come to Jum'ah, pray, because we're supposed to do it. But it's another thing entirely when you're coming here with full conviction that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants me to do this because it's good for me. My reward is waiting. My Jannah is waiting for me. That tranquility in your heart when you're doing the hardest things, that is what Ibrahim alayhi salam had and demonstrated time and time over. And it's because of that he was able to do things that we can't even think of. Whether it's walking into a fire. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says he's walking into a fire, but qalbun salim. His heart is completely at rest. And we all know the story. As he's being launched and he's falling off the cliff, Jibreel alayhi salam comes to him and tells him, do you want me to help you? And he says, from you I don't need any help. But from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, yes I do. That's a heart that's completely at peace. That even when you're literally falling off a cliff, your body is moving, but your heart is at peace. You're walking into a fire, his body is supposed to be burning, but his heart is at peace. If we've ever left family members in the airport, you know how you feel when that happens, that pain of partition. But he leaves his family in a desert, no people around, but his heart is at peace, alayhi salam. And that is the legacy of Ibrahim alayhi salam. And if we can bring our heart to that place, I want all of us to think, myself included, are we there? Are we there yet? When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells me to do something, am I at peace with it? Doing it or not doing it, that's, inshallah, we're all there already. But am I at peace with it? When it comes time for me to open up my wallet and give where it hurts the most, am I at peace with it? Do I do it willingly? Do I hesitate? Do I have any doubt in my heart that this I'm going to see later? When these difficult decisions have to be made for our deen, am I completely at peace with it? And if we are not, because honestly most of us aren't, if we think about it, then think about why is it that I am not? What is it that's holding me back? What part of this dunya gives me hesitation? What part of my desires, of my habits, of whatever it is, what part of it is it that makes me think twice before I do something for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And if you can just identify that one thing and get rid of it, then you will attain that same level. You will be at that same level. You won't be asked to step into a fire. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us. Even though we see the images every day now, because that's even something that's happening. But you'll have the heart to do something like that. You won't be jumping off a cliff with Jibreel alayhi salam coming to you. But for whatever challenge is in your life, you'll be at peace with it. And if, again, we feel like we're not there, we feel distant from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we have this heart, but it's not at peace, then I want us again to think and ask ourselves, and I ask myself, that why is my relationship with Allah like this? If I feel distant from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, was it Allah that moved away from me, or was it me that moved away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Ask yourself honestly. And I can guarantee for every single one of us the answer will be, I moved away. That my heart isn't at peace. I don't have that qalbin salim like Ibrahim alayhi salam because it was me that moved away. And that's okay. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, if you were at the Eid khutbah, huwa sammakumul muslimin. He named us Muslims. But that doesn't mean that we're perfect. Muslims doesn't translate to perfection. It's someone who submits. And part of that submission is knowing that you're not going to be perfect. But when you recognize that, you act on it and you come right back. You pick up exactly where you left off. Ibrahim alayhi salam was a prophet of Allah. He's gone through trials we can't imagine, and he passed all of them with flying colors. But for us, the trial, perhaps more than anything else, is when we have this distance between us and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Are we willing to come back? Are we willing to come back and reset our heart to get that qalbin salim? Are we willing to overlook everything, willing to give up whatever it is that we need to give up to come back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And as we finish, we talk about the legacy of Ibrahim alayhi salam. We can't finish without talking about the literal legacy that he leaves behind. You can't say legacy without talking about what you leave behind for future generations. And Ibrahim alayhi salam, he encompassed this in his entire being. And we know in the Quran, as he's building the Kaaba in this barren wasteland as it was at the time, nobody's around. Who is he doing that for? He's building it with his son. رَبَّنَا تَقَبَّلْ مِنَّا. He's building it and he's asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept. And then after he finishes building the Kaaba, something more than me and you can ever imagine to do. And this is the man who's devoted his entire life to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he makes dua to Allah that, Allah, this is great. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to do this. وَمِن ذُرِّيَّتِي. What about my offspring? What about my kids? What about my kids' kids? Ibrahim alayhi salam is thinking about this. Are my kids going to be Muslim? Are their kids going to be Muslim? What about 4, 5, 6 generations? Are they going to be Muslim? Do we think that far ahead? Do we even think to the next generation? The way we live our lives, the connection that we have with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, are you confident, am I confident that the next generation will have these values? That they'll have this La ilaha illallah? Are we living our lives in a way that's conducive to that? And we end at the very end of the story, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's in Surah Baqarah, we won't go through the whole thing, but now Ibrahim alayhi salam is on his deathbed. And he's lived this life, this amazing life. We talked about a couple of the miracles that he came with. Built the Kaaba, called out for Hajj, and now over 1,000 years later, thousands of years later, we're still doing it. This is the life he lived. And he's on his deathbed, and he's still thinking, what will my kids worship after me? And he's able to instill this to the point where Ya'qub alayhi salam, his descendant, comes later on. And this is the dialogue that the Quran speaks about. إِذْ حَضَرَ يَعْقُوبَ الْمَوْتِ. Ya'qub alayhi salam is on his deathbed. And his children, he has many children, are gathered around him. Again, another prophet of Allah. And he says, مَا تَعْبُدُونَ مِن بَعْدِي. That when I am gone, what is it that you'll worship? He's not asking about his will, He's not asking about his wealth. He's not asking about anything. He says that when I am gone, who are you going to worship? What's going to be your religion? That is what he's concerned about. That was the legacy of Ibrahim alayhi salam, his grandfather. And that is our legacy as well. If we call ourselves Muslim, if we call ourselves as part of this legacy, number one, we have to be comfortable with it. We have to be confident in it. We have to have that qalbin salim, that full conviction that this is who we are. This is who we do. We are people who stand up for justice. You can't take that away from who we are. We are people who worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. You can't take that from who we are. And be confident and have full conviction in that. And then once you have that, you have to be concerned with what's going to happen after me. My kid after me, his children after me, her children after them. What's going to happen? This cannot end with me. I don't want to be, if all of us think about it, there was somebody going back however many generations, depending on where you are in the world. Someone, your great-grandfather, great-grandmother, someone, couple of generations back made that call to say La ilaha illallah. Maybe it was you, maybe you're the one that did that for your family. But sometime that happened. But make sure that you're not the person it ends with. If someone in your family made that call 6, 7 generations ago, make sure you're not the one that ends with. Carry on that legacy of Ibrahim alayhi salam, and the way to do that is to demonstrate for our children this complete way of life and to have full conviction in it. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us of people who can do that. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us from the people who are deserving to be carriers of this legacy. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to exemplify this legacy. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect our brothers and sisters in Palestine. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect our brothers and sisters all over the world. Palestine, Kashmir, our Rohingya brothers and sisters, refugees, Uyghur refugees. Subhanallah, you can go on and you won't hit everybody. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bring peace and this heart of peace to everybody who is suffering. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to have this heart to help them. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر